All right. Well, there we go. All right. It is a Texas Size Tuesday. We are live with another special edition of the Fight Business Podcast, doing our game show style. Today we have Blaine David and Rodri Morgan. Blaine, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Pat. How are you? And how's Darren?
Oh, Darren the Damage Elkins is always doing well. I'm doing well as well. Rodri, how's it going?
Good man. Yeah, staying up late for this one, but we're all good. Still awake.
So you're
Well, I
UK,
mean, you're
correct?
staying up late, so you better win. I mean, Blaine's not hard to beat though, so we'll see how this goes.
I've never
Uh,
been beaten at this game.
Oh God. Okay.
I've never played, so you're good.
Nice.
I'm undefeated.
Undefeated.
no.
Both 0-0. We'll see who's always got to go. And we'll start with Blaine. Why don't you tell us a brief overview of who you write for, what you cover, and then we'll jump to Rodri. Do that real quick as well.
Well, he gave away my middle name. My middle name is David. My last name's Henry. So you can find me on
Oh,
Twitter at Blaine Henry MMA. I don't hate you for it, Pat. I promise. I host the Fight Library podcast as well as write for my website, fight-library.com, and also write for My MMA News and Cage Side Press.
all right. And Rodri?
It's an impressive resume, man. I write for the Body Log, same as Pat. Um, Due to a severe lapse in judgment when I was like 15, I named my Twitter handle Turnt HQ. So it's TURNTHQ. And that's where I do all of my tweeting. Because of Twitter's security rules, I can't seem to change it.
Well, based on just the fact that Blaine has two first names, just
I have
all three first
last
names,
first names.
three
Three of
three
them.
first three first names, and that you have such a great Twitter handle, you're already up 5 points. So it's 5-0, Rodri, to start.
Wow.
And hey, don't worry, you got
Had
time.
to,
You got time.
I had to work on that. I knew it was going to happen at some point.
And we're gonna dive right into it and go into round one. So let's start. Bare Knuckle FC, UFC, and Bellator all happened this past weekend. Boys, which one had the best showing? Blaine, let's start with you.
All right. So first of all, there was a Bellator this weekend.
Yeah.
The reason I say that is because all I heard talk about, I forgot Gegard Mousasi was fighting. I didn't think about it because I was too busy hoping Artem Lobov knocks out Paulie Malignaggi because I can't stand him that much. And because the Korean Zombie was fighting. Let's be honest here.
Mhm.
Nobody was watching Bellator. So first of all, they're out. Second of all, in the lead up to the fight, UFC failed. The bare knuckle had the best showing. But after watching both of the fights, come on, let's be honest. Korean Zombie with a 58-second knockout, Biggie Boy with a 9-second knockout. UFC definitely all the way beat bare knuckle boxing because Paulie and Artem happened just like I thought it was. Paulie's going to counter strike and lose in a decision, and that's what happened.
All right, Roger, your thoughts?
I'm going to go the other way. I don't actually disagree with anything you said. The Bellator card, I actually went to all the pre-fight week antics and media day, stuff like that. That was actually a really good time. And yeah, the whole scheduling of the coverage for that show was a complete shit show. And I don't even know, how did you guys watch it in the US? Like, because you don't have Channel 5, right? So
We
Bellator?
had to. You had
yeah.
to watch on the Bellator app for the prelims, then wait, then watch the the last three cards or last three fights on the main card on the Bellator app again at like 4 Central or something, like several hours later, and then after that watch the middle fights on the DAZN app at like 9. It was, yeah,
yeah. That's fucking horrific, to be honest. I agree with Blaine. They're out. You said the BKFC had the best showing. And the reason why is because the UFC Greenville card, like Pat, I'm sure you saw this in our discussions on the Body Lock, that had basically no social presence until people started getting knocked out. In the lead up, I think the UFC Greenville hashtag was doing pretty badly. Now, BKFC obviously is becoming something that we kind of love to hate, but we also hate to love it. Like it's a very weird dynamic that it's picking up. I think that it won this weekend because it got the most eyes on it, and that Korean Zombie knockout was phenomenal, and we all love him. But I think that in terms of pure entertainment value, I think BKFC probably won it. And I also think that, contrary to a couple of popular beliefs in the media space, I actually think we're now going to see more MMA fighters once they wash up on the shores that age cast them on, and they've gone up the heavyweight rankings, or they've gone up whatever weight division they can. I think it's going to become a more viable option for them to transition into and still have the potential to earn money. So I think that that's something that people didn't necessarily realize. And finally, BKFC also made Malignaggi look like a twat. So in my eyes, that's a fantastic win.
Give him points for that.
He's getting points for that. That's a great explanation. I like that you brought up the Bellator ridiculousness that it was watching, especially over here. It was ridiculous. It was nuts. And I would say that overall for me, I would say Greenville was a little bit more entertaining for me personally, but I get that, again, it seemed that BKFC had a stronger showing throughout. People were watching bare knuckle boxing fights with Lieben and who was before
Dakota
Lieben?
Cochran.
Yes, yeah.
Joey Beltran.
One of the best storylines.
Yeah, Joey Beltran.
One of the best storylines in combat sports of the year.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. And so I would say
a combat sports story out of the 90s for sure.
Yeah.
I love it.
That's points for Blaine on that one. Some points for Blaine for that. But both well said. You both get points. We'll get to where you're at. Huh?
All right.
Yeah, we both get points. Now you brought up, that goes to our second question. You brought up that trending on social media going into this, BKFC was way ahead of both UFC and Bellator. Why do you think that was? Blaine, let's start with you.
Well, first of all,
big show?
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Why was it the big show?
Oh, first of all, it's bringing in two different communities. Boxers hate MMA fans, and MMA fans hate boxers. So it's taking the best of both worlds. You got all the Paulie Malignaggi fans, who is a two-weight former world champion, going against a cult fan favorite, Artem Lubov, who we all jokingly call the GOAT. Let's be honest, he's not the GOAT. Darren the Damage Elkins is the GOAT. So I'm look, you see the point, brownie points, huh?
No points for that.
Yep, points. I lost points for having 3 first names. Come on. So you bring in two of the biggest communities in one of the most interesting, I guess you would say, promotions in the world now, because everybody wants to see what bare knuckle boxing is about. It's the new kid on the block. It's exciting. It's fun. It's bloody. It brings in the pride guys and stuff like that. So, that as well has something to do with it. Plus, they had big name MMA fighters. You had Chris Lieben on there, Dakota Cochran, who had just knocked out Johnny Hendricks in his last bare knuckle fight. And they also don't have another bare knuckle promotion to deal with because, World Bare Knuckle Federation was kind of a farce from the beginning.
That's good points. Roger, what do you think?
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think that also what's happening at the minute, the reason why BKFC, obviously, I don't think we can come to expect this sort of hype around every BKFC card. I think that's important to stress, from the outset going forward. I think this one last weekend has done a lot of good for its spotlight in the combat sports world. But obviously, the reason people were tuning in really to see Malignaggi Lobov, irrespective of what the sport actually was. I think fundamentally it was far more due to that headliner, the whole lead up, the spitting, the slapping, the general behavior of both guys. And I think also kind of with the UFC at the minute, they're going through weird stages, right? So at the start of the year, we had that unbelievable card with, opening the year with Cejudo and Dillashaw. And then you have, I forget which number it was, but the card with Usman and Woodley and Lawler and Askren. There's so much. If you're a UFC fan or if you're an MMA fan in general, pretty much now every weekend you're having something to watch. So I think I think they're taking sort of time off from promoting certain events that they're doing in favor of others. And yeah, I just think that BKFC had a really big moment in the spotlight. Don't expect it to be continuous, but I think it'll peak and trough the more we see people crossing over there who can attract the entertainment headlines, as it were.
I'd agree with that.
One more thing, if I could add in here.
Yeah.
This is also the third big chapter in boxing versus MMA, which is such a big topic. First, you had Couture versus Gary Toney, which was a destruction by Randy Couture. And then you have Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather, which was the biggest chapter, chapter 2. Obviously, it wasn't a close fight, being real. So this also has the same residual effects of Conor McGregor's Floyd Mayweather fight as well. People want to see what Conor can do, like it or not. People are curious to see what Conor can do in the boxing ring against other boxers, not just Floyd Mayweather. So people want to see, what does his training partner can do. So it has Conor McGregor's name attached to it as well, which brings in a lot of eyes as well.
Yes, very good point. The fact that we're talking about Conor's BFF here, Artem, and Paulie, someone who he brought in to help train against Floyd, and then they had that tumultuous split. I mean, that's really what brought this attention in my mind to this whole event. That's really why it's all about the drama, as Roger said. It's all about the main event. You've got a saturated market where we've got UFC cards or MMA cards every weekend. Here's something a little bit different. Here's more of a build-up and a feud. And I think that I agree that I don't think that's going to continue unless they continue to bring that entertainment era. But I also agree with you, Blaine, that it's a lot to do with Conor. That's a very good point. So points again, both of you. Well done. See, this is just going great.
I like my points.
Last question for round 1. Biggest winner of the weekend, biggest loser of the weekend from any and all cards. Blaine?
Oh, it's easy. This is easy.
Okay.
First of all,
it's easy. Go ahead.
The biggest winner of the weekend is obviously Rafael Lovato. I'm sorry. He upset who a lot of people thought was the best middleweight in the world. A lot of people gave Gegard Mousasi instead of Robert Whittaker that title. Don't let Ed hear that because he would die. He loves him some Wirebutt. Anyways, so yeah, the biggest winner is definitely him because he's got Bellator. And Bellator belts are becoming more and more valuable as the more stars that they get in there. Mousasi being the big one. You got Bader because Mousasi was talking about moving up to 205 and fighting Bader, and then going down to 170 and fighting, which was absurd to me. So yeah, the biggest loser is obviously Paulie Malignaggi. After talking all that crap and saying how MMA fans are stupid and he's happy they made this fight happen, he goes and gets outboxed by an MMA fighter, which is absolutely hilarious to me. I can't stand Paulie Malignaggi. He's one of 2 people I wouldn't have on my podcast in the entire world.
Who's the other one?
Chuck Liddell, but not because I hate him. It's because I don't want to expose his brain damage. It's more of a respect thing.
Oh, taking shots at Hall of Famers. Roger, what's your response to that?
Valid. Okay, biggest loser. I think there are 2 different questions here. One is who is the biggest loser who featured last weekend, and that is Paulie because he's a fucking loser.
Yes.
I think, however, the biggest loser actually, I'm going to go Fabian Edwards, Leon's younger brother, even though he won, because
interesting. All right.
That family is having a real tough time of it at the minute. Like I was at UFC London when Leon fought Gunnar, and hands down, I would say the volume when Gunnar came out was literally about 3 times as loud as when Leon came out. And Leon is born 2 hours away from that stadium. People were booing Leon. Like, people who watch the sport, people who cover the sport, they know that Leon is having a fairly tough time getting fights despite his fucking amazing record. Just come through with an RDA fight, which is really good. Fabian has been suffering the same kind of thing in Bellator. He's just signed a new deal. Everything was looking great. And he fought Jonathan Basoku, who is almost unknown to everyone, didn't finish him, took him all the rounds, and he actually looked bored for a lot of the fight. Like, there was no real, like, he took him down a couple of times. He won 3 of the rounds basically just through top control. There were some glimpses of what he can do in there, but in the lead up to pre-fight, he was giving this, like, you're going to see a really nasty bastard in there when I get in there with him. Like, this is like a real opportunity to go in and make a statement like, Van Steenis did against Shipman, which was, for me, he's one of the bigger winners of the weekend. But I think in the eyes of the Bellator matchmakers, Fabian is still someone who they're not entirely sure about. And I don't know if they'll give him the respect by giving him a top contender in his next matchup that I think he deserves, purely based off what happened with him and Bisoka.
All right, and what about the biggest winner?
Biggest winner. I think obviously I think Lovato is the obvious answer there, and I think it's the right one. Feel really bad for Mousasi, like the guy, despite his record, despite all the work he's put in over the years, despite all the people he's beaten, people still seem to pick up on the fact that he's very relaxed, whether that be at the media day, he seems kind of uninterested, whether that be, in the actual fight itself, a lot of times it looks like he's not really doing much. I personally don't agree with that. I just think that Lovato is obviously such a perennial talent at what he does, and he was really able to showcase, this new breed of BJJ fighters making a crossover. And I think that for him, it's a victory for that class of people, your Tonans, your Ryans, even, God forbid, your Danises of the world. So I think he is the biggest winner. If, purely because Blaine said him, I'm going to try and pick someone else. I think I wouldn't class Artem as a winner, really, from this weekend. Like, yeah, okay, it was good to see him beat Paulie. Like, I think he'll eke out his time in BKFC. He'll have a happy time doing what he loves. He just loves to fight. He's a pugilist. That's great. I actually think, going back to Bellator, I think the Costello Van Steenis, who knocked out Shipman in the second round, is actually a massive winner, because Melvin Manhoef, who fought on the same card, he wants to retire with a card in Amsterdam in the next couple of months. And I think, given Van Steenis' Dutch and what he was able to do to Shipman, who was previously undefeated and very highly regarded in the UK MMA scene within Bellator, I think he could see a real bump up the rankings and actually get someone pretty valuable to have on his resume in his next fight.
And I'd agree with that. I would. I like both of your answers. You're both wrong. You're both just wrong. And let me explain why. Is because the biggest winner is clearly Artem Lobov. Reason being, without this fight, he wouldn't be anywhere. Where would he be? He would be sitting at home. He has nothing whatsoever. He couldn't make it in the UFC. He couldn't really get boxing matches. So he comes into BKFC and he gets a high-profile fight, and he beats someone that, honestly, a lot of people did not expect him to beat. This raises his profile. This gives him a little bit more life before he just, again, like you said, goes back into BKFC, continues doing what he does, gives him a little bit renewed boost. And in terms of the biggest loser, while Lovato is a great winner, don't get me wrong, biggest loser there is Bellator. You just had their crown champion, who they just paid so much money for, get upset pretty badly, but not like a flash knockout or not a crazy submission, like won pretty clearly against Mousasi. They paid a ton of money for him, and now they're just sitting out, and what are they going to do? They can try and push Lovato, like you said, but he's not exactly oozing charisma. Moose was their huge, like, hey, we now have a strong 185 champion, just like we had a strong 170 champion in Rory. So I'm sorry, you guys, both good answers, but both wrong, just completely wrong.
I forgot about Fedor.
Huh? Fedor?
Forgot about Fedor. Yes.
What about? Well, that's a different division.
Despite Fedor not being quite what he is, he's still a giant draw, and he's probably Bellator's biggest draw if I had to put my money on it.
And Moose will still be a draw, but I think they needed him to really beat actual competition at 185 rather than just. Who has he fought? He took it from the belt from the champ. He fought Rory, who looked terrible, And then this was another first real defense against a legit contender, and he couldn't stack up. To me, that's looking like you overpaid a little bit too much for the Moose. But you're right. I'm sure he'll still draw. I'm sure people will still watch. It's just my opinion. I'm just kidding around, guys. You can get wrong answers. Just calm down. But
but then the other thing is, like, how interested is he going to be in, do you run that straight back? Because you could make an argument it could have been a draw. Worse decisions have happened.
It's true.
And is he going to be able to get it straight back? Two, if no, is he interested in taking fights that aren't title fights at this point? Like he's been saying, I'm going to fight out my 6-fight contract. That was 3 fights ago. So
yeah, no, those are good questions, and we'll have to see what happens with it. And so after round 1, I'm just going to tally up some of the points here. Look at some of Blaine's facial expressions in the replay real quick.
You got a replay?
No, not at all. I'm just because you called me out on that, you're losing some points. So at the end of round 1, we have Rodri sitting at a cool 400 and Blaine sitting at about 55. All right, got some work.
What? How did it get this bad?
Hey, you got some work to do. You can go back. There were double points in round 2.
I mean,
I need some zingers.
How the hell did it get that good? God, how many points was my Twitter handle worth?
A lot, but that doesn't matter.
395.
Look, I can only tell you the scores. I can't tell you all the nuances. Give away the formula.
You don't make the rules.
No, not. Of course not. Not me. Let's jump into round 2 here. Jose Aldo, contract extension. Just announced he extended for 8 fights before the Volkanovski fight, so he's got 7 fights left. Was talking about retiring and going into a different sport, whether that's boxing or soccer, doing something else. Been talking about it all last year. This news comes out, 7 more fights. This is clearly a we're locking you up so you can't go do MMA anywhere else contract extension. That's what this is, regardless of if he retires sooner or not. Question is, was it a good call by Aldo? We're going to switch it up this time. Roger, what do you think?
Look, if he wants to keep fighting, great. Like, he's not prime Aldo, which was obviously a terrifying sight and one really to behold. He's still entertaining. I say that with a pause because, to me, the last fight against Volkanovski, yes, it was a testament as to how good Volkanovski is, but also, and Aldo's come out and said this afterwards, he just didn't really feel it. Maybe that's sometimes a thing. I don't know. I've never fought at the highest level professionally. But I think the key question here is split in 2. Number 1, is it the right thing for him? Number 2, is it the right thing for the UFC? For the UFC, I'm not entirely sure that this is worth it. Like, I don't know how much they're offering to pay him, but I presume it's probably good money. He's a former champ and he probably knows his worth, and he's been eking around the title shot like sphere. I think that for him, yeah, good job, well done. If you want to keep fighting, absolutely great. But let's start talking about the possible matchups he can have. He beat Moicano and Stevens before he fought Volkanovski. Volkanovski's now on the sideline whilst Holloway and Edgar fight for the title. It's a bit of a crowded market at the minute, and I think that we might well see him just rock out these next couple of fights against top to mid-tier opposition, and then sail away, carry on with his burger joint in Rio de Janeiro. I think it's you're right. I think it's a holding pattern by the UFC. But in all honesty, I'm not crying out to see more Jose Aldo performances just because I don't really like the dynamism that I've seen from him in his last couple of fights, despite the knockout of Moicano. So, hats off to him. Good job. UFC, I think, was that really necessary? I'm not sure.
All right, Blaine, what are your thoughts on that?
First of all, I'm going to say yes, it's necessary because fighters are stupid. They like to fight long past their prime. Look at BJ Penn. He's fought long past his prime. And if UFC didn't have him locked up, he'd be fighting somewhere else, just like Chuck Liddell has fought somewhere else. These guys, they tend to love their sport and they tend to fight even though they shouldn't, even though it's against their best interest. So what the UFC is doing here is they're losing a lot of their older talent to like Bellator, for example, is the best example because of Chael Sonnen, Lyoto Machida. Even they had their chance to get Fedor and they didn't even try and get that. They're losing a lot of these older guys that can fill out the cards and be good tests for younger prospects. Do you really want to see Jose Aldo fight in Bellator or ONE FC? I don't. So it's a good move by the UFC for sure because they're keeping that talent locked up for life. John Jones is going to have the same thing. Conor McGregor is going to have the same thing. They're treating Jose Aldo like the great he is. Is it a good thing for Aldo? Sure, he's going to get top tier money with how the UFC pay scale is. The more you fight, the more money you get, and Aldo has buku fights. So yeah, it's a good move for both of them. Aldo's not going to be able to go fight in Bellator, thank God. And when it's time for him to hang him up, he'll hang him up as a UFC fighter.
Yeah, I gotta agree with that. I think it's smart for UFC to stop, especially Aldo's only 32. He can still put on exciting fights. He's not at the BJ Penn level. He's not at the Silva level. If he goes over to Bellator 1, he's bringing a huge Brazilian following with him, which the UFC has most of the Brazilian talent and fans locked up. So you start going over there, like Lovato is an example of like, okay, here's some more emerging talent, but I mean, in terms of the big name stars, UFC has most of them. So I think it's a great call in terms of that the UFC gets that locked up. I don't know that it's great for him because I think honestly, again, he's trying to fight for a title, and I agree with Rodri that he's going to end up, being this perennial gatekeeper, top 5 gatekeeper for a while, and then we'll see what happens. But it's going to be very hard for him to get that title shot again, especially with the killers they got up there, and especially with Darren the Damage Elkins being, a close 13. Well, I don't know if he's still ranked or not, but either way, he's still there. He's looking. After Sacramento, he'll be back up there. So, Rodri, in case you're not aware, I love Darren the Damage Elkins, so that's where those jokes are coming from. But all right, good answers both. Let's talk about some of the rankings a little bit. Good segue there. So new rankings were released, and you had some big jumps, but one in particular was very interesting, and it was the fact that Yair Rodriguez, Yair Rodriguez jumped 4 spots because the Korean Zombie jumped 4 spots, taking out Moicano. So Yair is still ranked ahead of Korean Zombie and jumps people like Qatar, Emmett, Stevens, all of that, because Korean Zombie fought because he beat an opponent with a last-second knockout last November. Does that make any sense? Rodri, what do you think?
Do we still think that the UFC rankings mean anything?
That's a great call.
Are we actually like? Does anyone actually give a fuck at this point? I mean, yeah, I think that I've got to be honest. I think the UFC is now almost entirely an entertainment company, right? They have an incredible roster of talented fighters who, by all accounts, it should be like a professional sports league with a formulaic ranking system. However, based on the entertainment, based on the clicks, based on the views, I honestly think they're going to do what the fuck they want with them. And to be honest, we can say it till we're blue in the face, Oh my God, how is Yair still above Korean Zombie? Blah blah blah. Like I agree. I totally get the point, and you can most definitely lay out some really nice pieces explaining why people should be above other people, why certain people should be getting title shots. It hasn't made a fucking difference. Look what's just happened with Colby getting a Lawler fight on a fight night on ESPN. After all that shit, I get people don't like Colby. He's a huge draw, so I'm not entirely sure. Like maybe this whole Dana White beef thing is still going on, but ultimately, he is where he is. He hasn't been handed that next title shot against Usman. Usman's come out and said, "Oh, sure, if it's Askren they want to give me, then it's Askren." Askren has killed it since he's come in the UFC. with one fight that is arguably the most controversial result of the past year. If that puts him in contention, if that puts him to a ranking spot where he gets a title contention in one of the most stacked divisions in the entire company, I'm fucking done with rankings, man. Honestly, sort them how you want. Performance should dictate everything. Let's go from there.
All right, Blaine. I saw you agreeing with some stuff. I saw you shaking your head with some others. What's that all about?
First of all, you can't take the rankings how they are and lie down with them. You can't say, oh, well, they're getting rid of the rankings, so I can't care about them. That's what happened with boxing, and look where it is now. We have 14,000 belts, 7 million different champions, and no interim champions, at least, right?
That's true.
I mean, because everybody gets a belt. But yeah, we can't. That's a step into the boxing direction, which is what UFC decided that they didn't want to do at the beginning, and now they're getting closer and closer to that. Second, no, it's stupid that the Korean Zombie is still ranked behind Yair Rodriguez. First of all, he fought again. He beat a much higher ranked opponent, and he was beating Yair Rodriguez the entire fight. I had the score of 50 to whatever against Yair before he caught him with the epic up elbow, which that props to him. It was a beautiful shot. He said he'd practiced it with Cerrone. So yeah, I don't think he shouldn't have moved up just because Korean Zombie moved up. I mean, Korean Zombie went in there and beat the number 5 ranked opponent as the number 12 ranked opponent, and he got the job done. He went in there and dismantled Hanato Moicano, who is a dangerous striker. So yeah, stupid idea.
I don't even think Moicano was ever assembled. I mean, it was so fast and it was so picture perfect in terms of striking. It was. I don't know what's going on with Moicano, man. I feel bad for him. I feel really bad for him.
Yeah. I say you take the rankings away from the council that they have, turn it from a democracy to a communist thing, and let me be the all-father dictator.
I was with you up until that last comment. I
I'll have
totally
the rankings
on
right.
board with you.
I will have the rankings right. Darren the Damage Elkins is the champion.
Yeah, no. I mean, the truth of the matter is this. I'm all about what Rodri said in that the rankings are complete BS. They are whimsical. They don't make sense. The problem is that there are people that do care. Anytime you have fighters come out and talk about, well, I want a ranked guy higher than me. I want to fight an opponent that's ranked higher than me. You have the promotion that brings it in when it's convenient to say, oh, well, he's not ranked high enough. Oh, Michelle Waterson can't get the title shot. She's not ranked high enough. It's used in ways to either advantage the fighter or advantage the promotion, but it's not done in any sort of meritocratic way where it's like, well, why is this happening? I agree with Blaine that there's no reason that Yair should be ahead of Zombie and all of those other people. He was losing that fight. He hasn't fought since. I mean, come on. It's you got to at least have some semblance of it. It's certainly always going to be UFC's decision who gets the title shots as it stands right now. But you have to have some semblance of perception that, oh, rankings matter. If you're going to keep going back to, well, he's only ranked here, or I need a higher ranked opponent, which is what people do. As long as the media and the fighters and the promotion keep just saying that illusion of not poking it and saying, well, do the rankings make sense, and just kind of using it to their advantage, they're going to matter. So I'm with Blaine on that. I am with you, Rodri, though, that from a substance standpoint, if you were to do a deep dive into rankings, they would be utter BS. The council that decides them, the 13 or 12 media members or whatever, some of them are from radio shows or websites that are now defunct. One of them, if you click on the website he's supposed to represent, it's gone. So I just don't know.
Row 4.
Yeah, I have no idea what he's doing. But yeah, I think they still matter at this point, and as long as they still matter, shit like that can't happen. That's just my 2 cents. Points for both, though. Good points there. Blaine, you lost some, though, with that communist part. So just, it's all right. You got a lot.
I'll make it up for my post-fight speech. Watch.
It was a net gain. Last for round 2, very quickly, BKF salary is not being released. Is that a bad look? They refuse to release those numbers. No one really knows what they made. Is that a bad look? Does it affect anything? What do you think? Roger, start with you. Blaine's answer already.
I think I think when fighter pay isn't disclosed at any point, it's a bad thing inherently, because ultimately most of the issues that we're seeing around MMA and now as a sort of sidecar, I guess you could say, BKFC, is that fighters are finding it hard to band together to create better overall welfare for everyone, and they are stuck within the, all being tied to the mast and the promotion on their whim. I think, and also a lot of the time, if fighters don't disclose their salary, then logically they have no reason to be loyal to anyone else. So if they can look after them and their own, then they advance themselves. It's a very individualistic sport, and to an extent, I don't think they really care about what happens with other people. I think with BKFC not disclosing the salaries, I'm kind of surprised by it, because it's so basically barbaric that it would seem like the sort of thing, and the promotion is so like feudal in terms of some of the stuff they employed, like girls with literal Hooters jerseys at the weigh-ins,
like as ring girls.
Yeah, you got. Yeah, I'm taking away some points for that. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing.
There is. I mean, it's just the fact that they were all like actually in Hooters outfits that just had me thinking, like, where the fuck are we with this? Like, I get what
BKFC event, baby. Got Hooters
exactly.
Outfits. That's how you do it.
I get what they're trying to do.
Blaine, you've been making faces. Well, I'm gonna have to stop you there, Roger. Blaine, you've been making faces. What's on your mind there?
It's, first of all, do you really expect a company like Bare Knuckle Fighting Championship to disclose what they're paying the fighters? I'll give you a hint. They paid Artem Lobov 85 grand and Paulie Malignaggi 150 grand. That's probably what they brought in. But first of all, they're a private company, so they don't have to disclose figures if they don't want to. That's part of their business.
Wait, how do you know what they made?
I mean, come on. Do you think Artem Lobov is really bringing in 100 grand?
No.
Okay. Do you think they can afford to pay Paulie Malignaggi more than 150 grand?
No.
Okay, there you go. That was about what I roofed
that puts us down.
That's about the roof. So yeah, I'd much rather them disclose, because I personally want to know what Bare Knuckle's paying their people. It's not going to be what people want it to be, because people are just going to complain about it. To be real though, they can't afford to pay fighters that much money like the UFC or Bellator can, because they're a new organization. They're on their 7th card now, so they make money from sponsorships and stuff like that. They allow them to have sponsorships because they know they can't pay them that. So while Paulie made 150 grand likely, he probably hit $1 million in sponsorships for that fight. Artem Lobov probably hit close to 200-300 grand in sponsorships for that fight right there. So they don't have to, because it's smart business. Because I think if they disclose what they're paying fighters, because if you see they're paying a fighter $1,000 to win and $1,000 to show, a lot of people are going to be turned off by that. So it's a smart business move.
I agree. I think you're right in that the disclosed pay would be significantly lower than what people would expect, and there would be a backlash for it. I don't know about some of those numbers. I don't think Artem Lobov made 200 grand. I don't think it. I think he made. All right, we'll see.
All day.
Well, you're disagreeing with the host, so you're going to lose a couple points there, but your other points are very good. So
like Kadyrov money, bro.
Fair enough. So at the end of round 2, tabulating this up real quick.
Jesus.
We have Blaine sitting at 1,000, and we have Rodri sitting at 997.
Okay.
So Blaine is saying, I mean, you took a big hit with those Hooters comments. It's all right though. It's very close. It's neck and neck. Yeah, if you thought this was going to be meritocratic, this show is very much like the UFC rankings. All right.
I was going to say I want to see this fucking formula.
Well, you never will, because it is proprietary information. With that in mind, final round. Let's get to it. It's close. It's very close. We're going to alternate here. Blaine, you're in the lead, so you're going to get the first question. John Jones is speaking out about management practices. Says that a manager shouldn't be making more than 10-15%. Says that these young guys need to watch out. Is this all just a bid to help his public image? Do you think he really cares about the younger guys? Do you think that he really gives a shit about people coming up and all that stuff?
Absolutely. He does not care about these people. No, he is trying to do another PR move, and he's good guy John again. I can't stand good guy John. Just like I don't like bad guy John either. He's just a cheater. But somebody needs to say this, and if it's John Jones saying it, that's about as good as you can get next to Ronda Rousey or Conor McGregor. Young fighters need not to get taken advantage of in the business, and nobody talks about it publicly. So the fact that John Jones has come out and said this, it is a good thing. Whether or not it is for PR, that doesn't matter because the fact still remains he said it and he's John Jones. You know, he's done it probably better than anybody else. So yeah, I'm completely okay with John Jones taking advantage of this situation, trying to make himself look good. We all know he's not worth anything. I mean, come on, he's just a champion. That's it.
It's true. Roger, what do you think?
So I don't like good guy John. I don't like bad guy John, but I like how John knows how to switch between the two, which makes him overall a complete bell end. Like I actually overall I dislike him so much that I actually really, really like him. And this is like an example. This is a perfect example. On the interview with Ariel, he's in his suit, he's on his way to the media day. You know, he opens up the conversation talking about how young fighters, young up and comers in his gym, like how he was like looking out for them and saying, "Hey man, I've noticed you do this. My manager does this for me, and this is how much I pay him." Like, okay, if you want to take that from good guy John, fine. He's looking out for his fighters. He's been through a lot of shit in his career. When he was very young as well, you can take that stance. I'd be fine with that. On the other hand, what this guy does to people when he's fighting them is just it. He has every inch of bad blood about him that I refuse to believe, suit or not, Christian or not, adorable kids or not. This guy doesn't give a shit, and he literally just wants to cut people open. So I think brilliant move by him. He's a smart guy, and to be honest, I think it was just the right thing to say at the right time, and it appeals to whoever you want to give it to. For all the people who were disappointed in him and then now have renewed faith in his ability to be a good guy, that gives them something to hang on to. For all the people who fucking hate him and think he's a piece of shit, gives them something to shout about.
Yeah, this is not bad points at all. Very, very strong showing by both of you there. Score's not too much changed. I'm just gonna give neither of you points actually because you both did a good job. So,
did I mention I love Hooters?
Oh, that I'll give you 2 points. Won't put you in the lead, but
yeah.
All right. So now, quickly here, we'll do. France is going to legalize MMA in 2020. People are touting this as a huge thing. It's one of the countries that's held out forever in terms of legalizing that and doing everything. Rodri, is this going to have any actual impact on the sport? Is this just like a PR, like, hey, we like, oh, sweet, just like New York, only it's France? What do you think?
What do you mean by actual impact?
I mean, what?
Because obviously it will have a impact, but like, do you mean how big is that impact going to be?
Yes.
Long and short of it is, I don't think we know at the minute. I know exactly what the feeling towards this will be in America, which is
careful.
Cool. and that is absolutely fine. I totally get it. You guys now have pretty much knocked off all the states. Like, you've got more than a big enough platform to showcase all of these amazing fights. The European MMA scene, I think, needs all the help it can get whenever. We have Bellator coming here a couple of times a year now. We have the UFC coming here only once a year. Apart from that, we've got Cage Warriors, BAMA. We've got some ones in Europe, which kind of struggling. So I think any press that is surrounding European MMA is good for that. In terms of fighters coming out of France, sure, you can now legally train in a place and then make your way over to the US when you want. So overall, I think good, yes. Significant in the grand scheme of things, not particularly.
All right, Blaine, what do you think?
It doesn't matter at all. French are notoriously the nicest people on planet Earth. They don't make good fighters. And they're the second nicest country in the world next to Canada, who's just watered down French. So, no, it's not going to be a big deal. Fighting's going to be fighting, as big as it's always been.
Really? Have you
Yes.
been to France?
Yeah, wait. All right. First of all, you know I have French blood in me, right?
So do I. I
need
live
to
in
see
Louisiana.
that.
I have New Orleans an hour away from me. My last name is Henry.
That's true.
Henri, yeah, I'm very French. Okay, French. I mean, it's not a big deal. Okay,
What
we can go
about
have
Tom?
fights in Paris now.
What about Tom? I can't say his last name.
Tom Duquesnoy.
Huh?
Did you say Tom Duquesnoy?
Or Duca, the guy that just recently retired.
Yeah, Duquesnoy.
You know who's the best fighter to come out of France ever? Francis Ngannou. He was born in Africa.
Or Ngannou.
He was born in Africa.
I like the American. That is an American stance. I will give you that. that is about as pro-American stance as
You just wait till my winning fight speech. I got one queued up, ready to go.
I don't know how many points you thought you got for that answer, but
about 1,000.
Man, yeah. Let's with that in mind, let's go ahead and move on.
Red, white, and a fuckload.
That's probably pretty accurate, to be honest.
I think is the technical term.
With that in mind, it's very close points wise. Final question here. Colby Covington, as you've alluded to before, Colby Covington is fighting Robbie Lawler. I mean, it's an ESPN fight. The guy went from being the interim champ to next crack of the belt to being stripped of his title to like, oh, Usman versus Colby is next, to all of this other stuff, causing all that shit in Vegas after Usman won. He is now fighting Robbie, who I believe is ranked number 10. I want to say if he's not 10, he's right about at 10. He's bottom top 10 for sure. What kind of message is this sending to fighters? And is it fair? Which I think that'll be pretty easy to answer. 2, what kind of message is it sending to fighters? And is it a good business move? If I know that I'm an up and coming guy and I can get this is, I don't know what number interim championship this is that has just been stripped and taken away. If it's 2 or 3 at this point, it does not matter. You're not the automatic contender. What do you think? Blaine, start with you.
First of all, I don't think it's that nefarious. I think the UFC really, really, really needed a main event for that card, and they didn't have anybody else available. They tried a whole bunch of things. Kamaru's out till November, he said. So they said, hey, Colby, we'll throw you an extra bone here. Go ahead and you can fight Robbie Lawler, which is a great name to put on his resume. The best name. If he beats Robbie Lawler, that's the best one he has, even though Robbie's ranked 9th, 10th, whatever it is. So it's a good move for Colby. But it is a message from Dana at the same time. Hey, don't approach me in a casino asking what's up about a fight when I'm gambling with my girls. That was dumb. That was dumb on Colby's part. Did you really think you were getting the title shot next? So no, I mean the winner will probably go on to make another interim fight as Askren or Jorge Masvidal fights Kamaru next. So it's not as nefarious as everybody's making it to seem. I really think the main issue was they needed a main event for that card, and Colby's a good draw and Robbie's a former champion, and that puts Colby in a good spot if he wins and Robbie in a really good spot if he wins.
All right, Roger, what do you think?
I agree. The only thing that really surprised me about it is the fact that Colby actually took it. Like, I mean, Lambert has come out and said, they needed a guy for a main event. Like, okay, but Colby's entire narrative, his entire heel persona over the past, year and a half now, has been built around the fact that he doesn't listen to anyone but what that belt on his shoulder that he takes everywhere whispers to him. and he is the rightful divisional champ, and nothing less than Snoozman, as he calls it, is gonna satisfy his quest. But again, like, it goes back to our point earlier. I think that it brings back into conversation the issue of rankings, because now, hypothetically, if Lawler beats Covington, then where does that leave us? Lawler's coming off the loss to Askren, so depending on how Askren Masvidal, you then match Lawler up with Masvidal, you put in an Askren rematch. Covington will be in the shit end of nowhere if he loses to Lawler, in my opinion. He'll be kind of up a creek without a paddle, because then he'll be right at the back of the queue. And I think that, furthermore, to the point of rankings, is that he will have nothing to fall back on because there is no formula to the rankings. Even if he loses to Lawler, he's going to have nowhere to go. He'll have to try and argue and curry favor his position back up the queue, which I think could be really difficult. So I love the fight. First of all, I think it's going to be a great fight. I think it's going to be a huge amount of media attention around it, and I think it's going to do actually pretty good numbers for a fight night event. I think we can all probably agree on that. But in terms of what it means for the division as a whole, that whole division is just fucking batshit crazy, and I love it, to be honest. Like, Lawler's my favorite fighter, and Colby is obviously one of the people who everyone loves to hate. So I love the matchup. Just kind of surprised he took it, if I'm honest.
Oh, it's a very, very solid point. I mean, yeah, this is very risky for Colby. Extremely risky for Colby. If he loses this, he is in trouble. I think Lawler is far enough down the rankings that if he wins, they still won't put him above Askren, and then they can kind of, if Askren wins, that is, and kind of finagle whatever they want out of that. But yeah, this is risky as hell for Colby, and the fact that he took it is saying something. It's interesting. I think it's not fair, but it's where we're at. All right, so with that in mind, great points made by both of you. Let me just tally this up. Let me tally it up here. So here's the thing. Normally I'm not this candid, but I mean it's 1 point difference, boys. 1 point, a single point difference here.
Darren Damage Elkins.
But no, you can't add in points now, Blaine. It's done. Systems made the choice. We've got Blaine sitting at 1,497, and we have Rodri at 1,496. Blaine takes it. And I mean, the thing is, Rodri, you made the better points. You did better analysis, but between Blaine's just blatant American stereotyping and your hate of Hooters girls, it just really hurts you. It just really hurts you. I'm sorry.
So can
I'm
I make
sorry. We will tweak the system going forward, but with that in mind,
don't tweak it. It's a great system. I deserve to lose.
With that in mind, Blaine, you have 30 seconds. What do you want to talk about?
Good morning. In less than an hour, aircraft from here will join others from around the world, and you will be launching the largest aerial battle in the history of mankind. Mankind. That word should have a new meaning for all of us today. We can't be consumed by our petty differences anymore. We will all unite under our common interests. Perhaps it is fate today. That is the 4th of July. And once again, we will be fighting for our freedom, not from tyranny, oppression, or persecution, but from annihilation. We are fighting for our right to live, to exist. Should we win the day?
Your 30 seconds are up.
But no longer as an American holiday, but it'll be the day the world declared in one voice. We will not go silently into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We're going to live on. We're going to survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day.
Well done. Well done. Beautiful. Beautiful. And with that note, I want to thank everybody for watching. Again, you can find me at AllDayOJ. It's AUGER on Twitter, Instagram, all that stuff. Blaine, remind them where you can find you. Rodri, remind them where you can find you.
Blame Henry MMA on Twitter, and you can check out the website fight-library.com.
Roderick?
Turn HQ, TURNTHQ on Twitter, and any articles I write for the Body Lock you can find on there.
All right. Well, thanks again, boys. Appreciate it. Thanks, everyone, for watching. This has been another amazing episode of Fight Business Podcast. Throw fists, get money. Have a good one.